Hey everybody, welcome to the final Amonkhet spoiler recap for April 13th on the Mana Leek. I'm John as always, and we got a whole bunch of cards today. I was expecting very few, but thankfully that'll make my job tomorrow a little bit easier since there's going to be less cards than normal spoiled tomorrow. But tomorrow, the set review starts, so stay tuned for that. But we're going to jump to the first card today with Hieroglyphic Illumination. Hieroglyphic Illumination is 3 and a blue for an instant at common, draw 2 cards, cycling for a single blue. This is inspiration with cycling attached to it, which was always a fine enough playable card, and this should be a fine enough playable card. Being able to, if you're being mana screwed, throw this away and still get 1 card out of it is still very, very nice. I hope the format's really friendly to this card because I like what I see here. Up next is Cradle of the Accursed. Cradle of the Accursed is another desert. It's a land desert at common. Tap it to add a colorless mana to your mana pool. Pay 3 generic, tap it, and sacrifice it to create a 2/2 black zombie creature token at sorcery speed. Just like the other desert, I'm not going to hurt my mana base for an expensive bear. Just not for me. I couldn't really care less about this card. I see the potential that late in the game when I don't need the mana anymore, I can get a bear out of this. But I would just prefer to not take the chance of being mana screwed for such a little impact, especially late in the game. That's it for commons today. We got a bunch of uncommons though. Up first is Spring to Mind. Spring is 2 and a green for a sorcery at uncommon. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Mind is 4 blue for an instant. With Aftermath, draw 2 cards. If you're splashing, Spring looks pretty good, but 3 mana is slightly more than you usually want to pay for the ramp or the fixing, but it's still fine enough if you do need that. 2-color deck, not as exciting. Mind is just not a card that you're hoping to play ever, so it's very nice that it's a free card attached to a very playable card. And in fact, after you ramp off of Spring, maybe Mind virtually costs 1 less. Still, Mind is just sort of this bonus for playing Spring. You're not going out of the way, you're not splashing, you're not fixing your deck so that you can play Mind. Vizier of Deferment is up next. Vizier of Deferment is 2 and a white for a creature human cleric at uncommon. It has flash. When Vizier of Deferment enters the battlefield, you may exile target creature if it attacked or blocked this turn. Return this card to the battlefield under its controllers or under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. I like this card quite a bit. There's so much utility in it. Resetting an exerted creature, or really any creature, giving it sort of vigilance after it's done damage, taking an opponent's creature out of combat, be it attacking or blocking, triggering ETB effects. There's so much versatility in this card that I love this. This is a card that I am super happy to see. I'm so excited for the set for cards like this. Give me this set. Gimme, gimme, gimme. We got to see yet another desert with Grasping Dunes. Grasping Dunes is a land desert at uncommon. Tap it, add a colorless to your mana pool, pay 1 generic mana, tap it, sacrifice it, to put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. Now here's a desert that I could see myself playing. Just a couple of mana, if you include, you're tapping this land, even though it's not for mana, to get a -1/-1 counter, which is a lasting effect or removal. Seems fine. Sorcery speed hurts it a fair bit, so ultimately I probably don't see myself playing it, but I could see myself playing it. So we'll see how the format shapes up, if there's any more desert payoffs. But yeah, Grasping Dunes, the best one I've seen so far. We got another Birdman here. We got Okketra's Attendant. Okketra's Attendant is 3 white for a creature bird soldier at uncommon. It's a 3/3 with flying. It has cycling for 2, and it has embalm for 3 white. Exactly the same cost as if you cast it. This looks incredible. It's a 3/3 for 5 flying, which is fine. That's right about where we'd expect it. If it dies, you get to have it again. That's amazing. Or you can throw this away earlier in the game, draw a card, it's in your graveyard now, and still cast on turn 5. Only 1 time, however, this time if it does end up dying. But yeah, this looks super versatile. Love it. I'm so excited for this set, guys. Super excited after the dismal Ether Revolt. Start to Finish is another split card that we saw today. Start is 2 and a white for an instant at uncommon. Create 2 1/1 white warrior creature tokens with vigilance. Finish is a sorcery with Aftermath for 2 and a black. As an additional cost to cast end, sacrifice a creature. Actually, that should say finish. This was a mistranslation here. Destroy target creature. It's Bone Splinters for 3 mana. A pair of vigilance tokens at instant speeds, totally fine, playable. All in, expensive Bone Splinters when you 100% have a token producer in your deck and have played it already. Sold. Very pickable, very playable in black-white. I really like this design quite a bit. Blood Rage Brawler is our final uncommon for today, and what an uncommon it is. 1 and a red for a creature Minotaur Warrior at uncommon. It's a 4/3 for 2. What's the downside here? It must be pretty miserable, right? When it enters the battlefield, discard a card. If you can't, don't. Who am I to stop you from doing what you want? Obviously, if you can, you must discard a card. But yeah, this is such a absolutely not even their downside. Plus, if you're playing Embalm or Aftermath or Graveyard Recursion, it's an upside. I'm not as upset about this as other uncommons that we've seen in the past, Rich Tusker, and I think Scrapper Champion was a much more obnoxious red uncommon than this card, because this card is horrifying on turn 2. On turn 3, it's annoying. Turn 4, it's kind of fine. And later in the game, you're going to have removal or burn. You're going to have creatures that can deal with an X3. It's only really terrifying on turn 2, but boy, on turn 2 is this going to be gross. On to the rares. We got a whole great big bunch of them today. Up first is Gideon's Intervention. Gideon's Intervention is 2 white for an enchantment at rare. As Gideon's Intervention enters the battlefield, choose a card name. Your opponents can't cast spells with the chosen name. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to you and permanent you control by sources with the chosen name. Constructed only. There's a million other ways to deal with cards of your opponents that have more utility. They're not 4-mana, do-nothing enchantments. Don't touch this, just like you wouldn't play Lost Legacy or Slaughter Games or etc. This is a card with a long ancestral history of unplayable and limited ancestors. Heart Piercer Manticore is up next. Heart Piercer Manticore is 2 red for a creature Manticore at rare. It's a 4/3. When Heart Piercer Manticore enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, Heart Piercer Manticore deals damage equal to the creature's power to target creature or player. Ooh, I love those words. Embalm for 5 and a red. Yeah, at worst, this is a Summit Prowler, which is totally fine. That's if you don't do anything, and if you never embalm it, getting it back one time for slightly more is fine. But being able to bone splinters a creature, or more importantly, just straight up nail an opponent in the face for who knows how much power, this seems fantastic. Easy pick, and it's something that'll just win games totally out of left field. You'll be at 5 life, staring down a 5 power creature and think, well, I've got a bunch of chump blockers. This comes down and you're dead. You're just dead. Heart Piercer Manticore looks very fun. Very excited by it. Harvest Season is up next. Harvest Season is 2 and a green for a sorcery at rare. Search your library for X basic land cards, where X is the number of tapped creatures you control, and put them onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. I'll keep an eye on this. My instinct is that if you have enough creatures tapped that this is worthwhile, then you're already winning. So why are you ramping? Why are you getting a whole bunch of more lands? It technically thins your deck, but the effect on that is so minimal unless you're getting a bajillion lands out of your library. So I don't know. I'll keep an eye on it, see where it ends up, but I'm not starting super excited by it. We got another interesting, splashy, not terribly excited by green rare here in Sandworm Convergence. Sandworm Convergence is 6 green for an enchantment at rare. Creatures with flying can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. That's fine, but pure sideboard. At the beginning of your end step, create a 5/5 green worm creature token. Every single end step. That's really good. However, there are few, if any, formats where 8-drop enchantments are a thing that are actually playable. It gives a little bit of inevitability if you get here, but boy, it's going to be hard to get there, especially without cycling. This is just going to be way too slow for Limited, I think. Commander players, have at it. But in Limited, I'm probably never going to touch this anytime I see it. Dispossess is up next. 2 and a black for a sorcery at rare. Name an artifact. Search target player's hand, library, and graveyard for any number of cards with that name and exile them. Then that player shuffles his or her library. We don't get one boring Slaughter Games style effect in this set at rare. We get 2. We get double the chances of opening a card that nobody gives a damn about. So that's super fun. Just like Gideon's Intervention, don't touch this. It's even more narrow that it's only for artifacts. So constructed only. Commit to Memory is our final split card of the day. Commit is 3 and a blue for an instant at rare. Put target spell or non-land permanent onto its owner's library, second from the top. Memory is 4 blue for a sorcery with Aftermath. Each player shuffles his or her hand and graveyard into his or her library, then draws 7 cards. I love Bounce. I love Griptide, which was 3 and a blue for this effect, except it went on top. For absolutely no extra mana, getting to put it 2 down is amazing. Being able to hit a spell off of it and not just a permanent, love it. Commit is going to be a card that I first pick all day, every day. I love it. It's straight up my alley. Memory, couldn't care less. Couldn't care less. I don't really symmetrically want to give my opponent 7 cards. So I don't know if I'll ever cast Memory, even though I'm hoping that I'm going to cast Commit a fair bit. Cascading Cataracts is a card that got some people excited. It's a rare land. It has Indestructible for some reason or other. Tap it to add a colorless mana to your mana pool. Otherwise, pay 5 and tap it to add 5 mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool. Certainly has Commander players very excited. Limited though, paying 6 mana, because of course you have to tap this land for no mana, to get 5 of any color is not really what I'm looking for. I don't see this being terribly limited, playable, or pickable, but of course other formats are going to be excited by it. Our final rare for the day is Shadow of the Grave. Shadow of the Grave is 1 and a black for an instant at rare. Return to your hand all cards in your graveyard that you cycled or discarded this turn. That's not something that's going to happen in Limited. You're not going to have the dozen or more mana that you need to really go off with this. You're going to get back a card, 2 maybe. If you are living the dream, you might get back 3 cards. This just does not seem worth it to me. Constructed, build around it to your heart's end. Limited, I'm going to avoid it. Finally, we did get 1 mythic today, and it's an interesting one. It's Glorious End. Glorious End is 2 and a red for an instant at mythic. End the turn. What does that mean? Well, it means exile all spells and abilities that are currently on the stack so they don't even resolve. Discard down, get rid of damage, do everything that the end step would do. At the beginning of your next end step, you lose the game. This is basically fog, but a fog that you must use to win. If you do not win with this, you in fact very literally lose with this. It's cute. Don't do it, guys. Don't do it. I'm not gonna. You shouldn't either. Anyways, exciting giant dump of cards on the final day. Tomorrow, of course, around 11 a.m., the full spoilers are going to go up. That's Eastern Standard Time. And generally, within a couple of hours, my set review will be up for the white cards in the set. So make sure that you do subscribe to the channel so that you know the second that set review goes up. It'll be up hopefully a few hours before the pre-release. So you'll be able to watch the set review and then go watch the pre-release. And then, of course, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we'll have videos. I don't think there'll be one Thursday. There's just probably not going to be enough other cards to do an extra set review video. So make sure that you do check that all out. As well, set review is not the end of my Amonkhet coverage. I will be doing a pre-release recap with footage of the event. I will be doing an over-the-shoulder draft recap of the first Amonkhet FNM. There will be Top 10 Thursdays, which will finally be back after a long hiatus. Tons of content, box openings, crack packs, etc. As always, if you like the content, click that thumbs up button, click subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you all tomorrow for the first set review.